After my father passed away, I went to live with my friend and his mom for a little while. Things with my mom were very strained, and I didn't want to stay at my friend's house initially. But they didn't want me to be alone during that time. Staying at someone else's house always made me feel uneasy for some reason. On my first night there, in the early morning, I woke up to the sound of my bedroom door opening. A man wearing a red flannel shirt and bib denim overalls walked into my room, holding a bag of tools. He turned on the light, looked at me, and then walked through another doorway into the utility room. Shortly after that, I fell asleep again. But when I woke up the next time, my room was dark, and everything was just as it had been when I went to sleep the previous night. Thinking that I had imagined the whole thing, I went upstairs for coffee and asked my friend's mom if there was another person living with them. She looked at me strangely and explained that it had only been her and me in the house all night. At this point, I was very confused, so I described in detail what the man looked like: his height, weight, clothes, facial hair, everything. Her face turned pale, and she hurried to her room to retrieve a photo. When she showed it to me, it was the same man I had seen in the basement that morning, even wearing the same clothes. She told me that he had passed away 30 years ago. He was your grandpa who used to own the property. He had taken his own life to save the farm. You see, he had invested his money into horses instead of machines, and the investment didn't go well. To prevent the bank from taking the farm, he sacrificed his own life. On a stormy night, he took a lightning rod into the middle of a pond, and nature claimed his life when lightning struck the rod. His suicide, strangely, led to a life insurance payout that saved the family's dairy farm and prevented the house from being foreclosed upon. My dad's house was known for having strange and spooky things happen. Many kids, including my sister and me, had experienced these creepy events over the years. I recall one particular time when I was going upstairs to take a shower. The bathroom was at the end of the hallway, and on my way there, I had to pass by the room I shared with my sisters during my weekend visits. As I walked by, something caught my eye: a figure sitting up on the bottom bunk of our bunk beds. This figure looked like a little girl, but there was something unsettling about her appearance. She had very pale skin, short black hair cut in a bob style with straight bangs covering her forehead, and her eyes were enormous circles with large black dots in the center as pupils. She was turned to the side, so her right shoulder was facing me. When she turned her head to look at me, the other half of her body seemed to disappear under the blankets. I was overcome with fear, and I screamed in terror. I rushed to my dad to tell him what I had just witnessed, and he was equally horrified by my account. The intensity of fear I felt that day was so overwhelming that I refused to go back upstairs or sleep in the house. My dad had to set up a camping tent in the backyard for the rest of the weekend so that I could sleep there instead, away from the eerie presence that had frightened me so deeply. It was an experience that still sends shivers down my spine whenever I think about it. In the neighborhood where I lived, there was a bar that I used to work at. This bar had a long and storied history, much of which was shrouded in mystery, and, some would say, dark legends. It had seen its fair share of incidents over the years, including at least 2 or 3 tragic deaths, and even rumored murders. These tales of the bar's violent past had been whispered among the locals for generations, and it wasn't long before I too became privy to the eerie stories surrounding the place. My friends would often visit to enjoy the live music performances, but they also brought back tales of strange happenings. Some had spoken of women feeling strangely trapped in the bathroom, as if an unseen presence was holding them inside. Others had recounted chilling instances of plates and glassware shattering in the kitchen when no one was anywhere near them. Despite these unsettling accounts, I continued to work at the bar, mostly dismissing these stories as mere urban legends. However, my skepticism would soon be put to the test during one fateful night of closing up the establishment. As I meticulously arranged glasses back onto their shelves, a peculiar and unsettling event unfolded before my eyes. I reached for a glass, but as soon as it was in my hand, it shattered into countless pieces, almost as if it had mysteriously vanished right from my grasp. The shock and fear I felt in that moment were overwhelming, and I couldn't wrap my head around what had just occurred. With trembling hands, I made my way to the manager and recounted the bizarre incident. To my surprise, her reaction was far from shocked or concerned. She calmly explained that such strange events were not uncommon at the bar, and that it had earned a reputation for being a place where the supernatural and the inexplicable were known to occur. This revelation left me deeply unsettled. I found it increasingly difficult to continue working in an environment where the line between reality and the paranormal seemed to blur. After some contemplation, I decided to part ways with the bar, as I no longer felt comfortable working in a place where mysteries and the unexplained seemed to be an integral part of its history.